to Sabres head coach Lindy Ruff, who joins us on the Western Hotline. Lindy, good morning. Jeremy and Joe, thanks for taking some time today.
Morning, gentlemen. How are you?
All right. So last night's game, Montreal, Lindy, it's maybe it's a tale of two games, or I wonder how you would kind of split it here. The first period kind of looks like a nightmare, and the response was good, I would say. When you look back at what happened between the first and the second, what was the message, and what went wrong in the first?
Again, early on in the game, I thought emotionally got a little bit, too jacked up. Took a couple penalties that, helped to give them momentum. I thought our 5-on-5 play in the first period was good, and we focused on that in the second and third, and skated well, moved the puck well, and fought our way back in the hockey game.
Was it both when it comes to the penalties, like undisciplined energy, but also, especially that first one, Lindy, on Cousins? I have to imagine one of the most frustrating penalties as a coach is when there's a scrum and only one guy gets taken away.
Yeah, I was frustrated because usually in those situations, two guys are taken, you get a warning. We've talked a lot about, emotionally investing in the game, and whether it's around your goaltender, whether it's hits on players, and being invested right from the start of the game. And I know there's a fine line. Penalties are things we talk about, the type of penalties we take, whether they're offensive zone penalties, whether they're emotion penalties. Discipline is a big part of the game. I have a hard time in really criticizing, plays when guys are around or on top of your goaltender and you're trying to keep them out of there.
Lindy Ruff joining us here on the heels of the loss to Montreal last night. Lindy, as we talk about that fine line, Rasmus Dahlin might be top of mind for this. He took a couple of penalties. He also appeared to me to be entirely engaged. And Joe and I talked about this morning about he seems to be a player that wears his emotion on his sleeve. He's someone that, I don't know if you ever want to calm him down, but when you're walking that fine line, as a captain, you're both the energy and the discipline, and that's the line to walk?
I think if guys kind of summed it up, it's a real fine line. And just what we talked about, he's trying to lead, he's trying to be invested in the game. I think we were all emotionally charged in that first 5 minutes, including myself, where I wasn't happy with the calls. I thought our players were, invested in trying to make a difference. There is a line at some point. I think that you've described it pretty well, that he wears his emotions. I would rather have a player that's emotionally invested at that level than a player you got to urge to get emotionally invested in the game.
Lindy, for Dahlin, he is a bit of an example of this, and maybe some of the others as well. It's your first year back. Do you find that these players are wearing baggage, feeling a frustration over multiple years, or are you able to kind of keep them in the moment?
I really feel that we've been able to keep them in the moment. Kind of a really tough loss at home, and we took the lead. The frustration of, not getting that third goal against Montreal. We had, Greenway alone in front of the net. We had the McLeod breakaway we don't score on. I think what really hurt us in that home game is our 4-on-4 play. We given up that goal in the last couple seconds, and then not quite being able to push through in a third period that, we had a lot of zone time but didn't get enough pucks to the net. I thought there was a lot of purpose in our zone time last night where we got more pucks there, we got more people. I would use the Cousin goal as an example. He got the puck to the net off the goaltender, and Tuck gets the rebound. Some of those aren't the prettiest goals, but the fact, we drove the net and we put it on the goaltender. Sometimes passing it off the goaltenders is the best opportunity of scoring. So, I think they've, even after the first period, we just talked about our 5-on-5 play, the discipline of taking the emotion down one tone, and just we felt we could outskate them, outplay them, and I thought our guys did a great job of that. Nobody's happy with only getting the 1 point, but the fact we were able to come back and do what we did, just tells me they're invested in trying to win a game that, when you're down 3, it's usually pretty tough to come back.
Looking for silver linings even in some of these losses. You just mentioned the 5-on-5 play, Lindy. For the big picture even, as a coach, would you rather have a team that is playing great at 5-on-5 a lot, but it's the special teams that just... Not to say that the special teams have even been corrected this year, but do you feel like it's more easily attainable to build off a good 5-on-5 team than a team that might be great at special teams, but at even strength is a little bit struggling?
Well, I think there's a combination there that you need. You need strong 5-on-5 play. Our special teams play in the last couple games has let us down. I think the absence of Zucker has showed that our power play is, hasn't quite clicked the way it has with him around the net front and making low plays. And our penalty killing, we had a couple big breakdowns that, didn't like the first one we gave up. A backdoor play where, we've got to make sure we cover that off. The second one off Clifton, a little bit of a bizarre goal. So the special teams and the, strong 5-on-5 play. I think special teams can win you a lot of games. I went back to early in the year. Our power play took a long time to get going. It was the one thing that could have helped us win a lot of games early, and we didn't quite push through with that. So it is a combination of both, but you need a basis of strong 5-on-5 play that will allow you to win games, and then a power play that, if it's clicking, you don't have to be the best team some nights to win a game.
How much emotionally? I think Kevin Adams talked about this last week when he was on our station as well with the power play. Maybe you have too. That even if you don't score on the power play, that just not getting held up at the line repeatedly and even just getting chances can maybe make it have an effect emotionally when you don't just have a power play where nothing happens over 2 minutes.
Yeah, and we do talk a lot about just creating energy with your power play. I think there are some teams that are really good at stalling you out at the line. I think those teams, when we're pre-scouting, we're talking sometimes we may have to dump it in and set it up the ugly way. That's win battles down low. But to give up a shorthanded goal last night was really, that hurt us at that point, because you look at it, we're going on the power play again. We could have changed the emotion. We could have changed the energy of that building. We could have brought everything down, brought the tone of the game down with trying to take their fans out of it. Instead, we fueled the momentum and fueled the energy for Montreal.
Sabres head coach Lindy Ruff joining us on the Western Hotline. Lindy, you had the math about what to do in 10-game samples and a little behind schedule for the first 5 game or 10 points in 5 games. Is it something you're going to keep updating with the team, or it was an idea to stay engaged and to keep things alive. So how does it adjust on the fly?
Well, we've talked about we got to go 4-0-1 now. And I know that. Tough schedule, but take it one game at a time. We're going to stay invested in what we're trying to do here. It may take a couple segments to catch up, but it's something I want the team invested in. I think it's something that they bought into. I think, I said we've kind of set some goals with play, with goals for and goals against. We're trying to hit those marks, which help us get those points. Our special teams, which we've mentioned, has let us down. Special teams has to be better in these segments if we're going to try to gain the number of points we need.
Trade deadline coming up on Friday as well. Thoughts heading to that? I mean, it's not exactly a situation where teams would necessarily buy, and trading players away, teams in your position might be more likely to do that. Is it Is it a unique deadline in your eyes? I mean, when you and Kevin Adams are talking about what should be done, is it with an eye to get better now? Is it with an eye to next season?
I think it's an eye to do both, to get better now and to get better next season. We spent some time this morning talking about 5-on-5 play, where we have our game. We have our game in a pretty good place. But the idea is we need to make this team better now, and we need to make this team better next year. We've got to put ourselves in a better place. When you look at the special teams part of it, it hasn't been good enough. So this is an opportunity, I think, where we know what we have for young players. It's an opportunity if the right piece is there. I think we're all looking to make this team better.
Lindy Ruff with us on the Western Highline. Is it a unique spot in the sense of that this is more, I guess, a question for Adams too, but that the team right now, no one is thinking about picks and prospects as a trade. It's more about, like you just said, things that would help you now and in the future. You know what I mean? Like teams at the trade deadline versus offseason would probably be less likely to do that given they're fighting for playoffs.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I think when you look at where we're at, I think that a lot of times a team might be thinking picks and prospects and young players. I think we have a big holding of young players, and we've got good young players in Rochester. It's hard to win in this league with a real young team. So I think the fact that you got to find a couple pieces that will help us win now and set you up for being a better team.
Lindy, I want to ask you before we go about Devin Levi, named AHL Goaltender of the Month down in Rochester. He continues to put up big results down there, and that team is good. When it comes to, I guess, managing him and the future there, any eye to getting him up in Buffalo to get an opportunity to get on the NHL level? Because I would think, as you're looking to next year, looking to when this team can continue to compete, that he might be a big part of that and getting his game not just AHL ready, but NHL ready, even though when he's come up here, there have been some struggles. What is the, I guess, short-term / long-term idea for Levi and how he'll be used?
I think it's a conversation that we're going to have. We know how important he is to our organization, our team. He has put together a real nice season down there. Has played really well. I broke down the games when he's played here. I don't feel like we've played well enough in front of him. If we can put together the games where we play, our 5-on-5 play, our special teams play is better in front of a guy like him, I think that he'll have success. And I know that the success when he's come up hasn't been there. But I think with the games he's put together, it's a conversation we're going to have about, whether we see him again, whether we just keep him playing. It's something that we will talk about.
Sabres head coach Lindy Ruff. Lindy, thanks for the time. We'll talk again next week.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Sabres play San Jose tonight. Back to it for it's Buffalo Bills night at the arena.